In this video, we're diving into a real hot button issue. Should we tear down historic statues? I went all the way to the Bahamas to see where Christopher Columbus first landed, and I found an empty pedestal in front of the government palace where his statue used to stand. Why was it removed, and what does it mean for our history? In this short video, I'll break down both sides of this fiery debate. Are we erasing our past or paving the way for a more inclusive future? Stick around to the end and I'll show you some of the other statues that have recently been taken down. Now, let's get into this difficult but fascinating topic together. So I'm standing in downtown Nassau, Bahamas. Behind me is the government house. It's closed to the public, but it's where the leaders of this country would live. Right about here is a plaque that says Columbus 1492. There used to be a statue of Columbus there, but about a year ago, it was torn down by a person with mental disability who is now in an asylum here in the Bahamas. But the interesting part is that according to the woman at the National Gallery, he's a national hero. They believe that Columbus was a monster and brought nothing but destruction, rape, pillage, and disease. I can certainly see their side of things. You know, had Columbus not landed in the Bahamas, maybe the Lucayan people would have continued to flourish for a long time, perhaps indefinitely. But we also wouldn't be here had Columbus not landed here, certainly not in the form that we are. It was the collision of Europe and the New World. It is not controversial that some of the things that Columbus and the Europeans did were terrible. Slavery, abuse, the way they saw oftentimes indigenous people as less than humans. But the part that I find interesting, and that does make it controversial, is how much of the past should we erase as far as monuments? I'll give you a great example. The Aztecs in Mexico, beautiful temples. We wouldn't dream of destroying their temples, yet they were just as brutal as any European conquerors to the people that they subjugated. Most of the people that built those temples were subjugated and sacrificed. I tend to believe that when humans do these horrible things to other humans, it's a human problem. It's not specific to Europeans, white people, black people, Aztec people. But that's also a controversial opinion. What do you think? What monuments should we take down and what monuments should we leave up? Should we take down monuments to George Washington, who also had slaves? What about Abraham Lincoln, who might not have done enough in his time or at certain periods in his life with regards to slavery and equality? Should we destroy the ancient pyramids of Egypt because the people who built them were creating tombs for an elite class of people who subjugated the rest of the people in ways that could possibly be worse than some forms of slavery that the Europeans participated in? It's a very, very interesting question, and I do not think one that can be simplified into black and white and made easy to answer. So I wonder where that statue went. I wish the guy who took it down well, and I definitely understand where the Bahamians are coming from in not wanting to see a statue glorified in front of their government house of somebody who brought so much pain and suffering. Still, remains a controversial issue, what to take down and what to leave up. What do you think? Thanks for watching and for interacting in the comment section with this channel. I've talked about the controversy, and I'm going to end with some photos of other statues that were taken down in the wake of the George Floyd protests in 2020 and its aftermath. In 2020, a lot of statues of Confederates were taken down. Confederates are basically people that fought against the United States in the Civil War in the 1860s. That's how it started. But then other statues started to be taken down as well. Here are some more interesting examples. In Albany, the statue of Philip Schuyler was taken down. Philip Schuyler was a Revolutionary War general, which means he fought to help free us from the British. It was taken down because he owned slaves. In Eugene, Oregon, the statue of a pioneer was taken down. In Portland, Oregon, the statue of Thomas Jefferson was taken down,
and the statue of George Washington. There's also a statue of the pioneer mother taken down, probably because to some people she represented colonialism. In New York City, the statue of Theodore Roosevelt was removed from the Museum of Natural History, even though Theodore Roosevelt was one of the main proponents of our national parks. In San Francisco, the statue of Ulysses S. Grant was removed. Ulysses S. Grant was actually the general that fought for the Union and preserved the United States in the Civil War, fighting against the forces of slavery. In Madison, Wisconsin, one of the more strange examples of statue removal was the statue of Hans Christian Heg. Hans Christian Heg was an immigrant who was an abolitionist and fought against slavery during his time. His statue was decapitated and thrown into the river, and written on the statue were the words, "Black is beautiful," which led some to believe that his statue was removed just because he was white. In Miami, a statue of Jesus was removed from a church. In Larkspur, California, a statue of Francis Drake was removed because of his association with colonialism. In Charlottesville, Virginia, a statue of Lewis and Clark was removed because their exploration was seen as exploitation. In Camden, New Jersey, strangely, a statue of the greatest American poet, Walt Whitman, was removed. In Paris, a statue of Voltaire was removed because Voltaire apparently profited in some way through one of his investments in the Atlantic slave trade. In June of 2020, students at the University of Wisconsin in Madison called for the removal of the statue of Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., are two of the most well-loved, respected, and beautiful monuments in our country. But there are people that are calling for even their removal. So, where does it end? And where do we draw the line? I'll leave you with a look at one more statue. This is the statue in Mexico City of the Aztec Emperor Cuauhtémoc. This statue sits at one of the busiest intersections in the entire city. And as far as I know, no one's calling for its removal. But it's interesting to note that Cuauhtémoc had slaves. Cuauhtémoc was an imperialist who vanquished, murdered, sacrificed, and enslaved other ethnicities and other peoples in Mexico and Mesoamerica. So, how do we reconcile the logic? This is the question that I want to leave you to answer in the comment section. So I hope to see you there. Give me your opinion. What statues should we take down, and which ones should we keep? And for those of you who like to base their opinions on fact and experience, come along with me on the rest of my journey right here on this channel as I follow the footsteps of Christopher Columbus from the Old World in Spain to the New World in the Bahamas, in the Dominican Republic, and more. Just click here for the next video.